I just saw the tweet attached to your article this week that said, you have to recover from the pain of losing with Bryce. And I completely understand that. And then I saw Tony Finau was the cover guy. Like, good luck with that one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy. If you haven't given your head a shake and signed up for that yet, deposit bonus up to $250 with code Mayo. So you might want to do that. Colonial, Charles Schwab Challenge, best bets, gold, silver, and bronze. The gold hit last week, thanks to Jailbird Scotty coming through on Sunday, getting himself back inside the top 20. Not the one that I thought that I was going to have to sweat for the PGA Championship, but I guess I should have just bet Xander to win and not top 20 along with that. But here we are. A win's a win. We move on to this week, and hopefully we can cash some more gold, silver, and bronze picks. Joining me on the show, Matt Vincenzi is back. Steph Smalls on for the first time. Steph, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Very excited.
How about you, Matt? You're interviewing Ben Ann tomorrow. Can I hear your list of questions?
I'm just gonna kind of wing it. I like to just try to have a conversation and see where it takes me. But I got a couple backup if I need it. Little depressed after the Bryson loss yesterday, but I found there's no better way to come back from some depression than to talk about the next tournament. So here we are.
Well, Steph, did you have anyone who was in the running deep into it, like Xander, Hovland, or Bryson? I suppose. I guess even Morikawa was kind of there until he couldn't make a putt. My guy flamed out within 2 minutes, so that was. It opened up my afternoon, which is something.
My excitement ended with Sahith there. So thought there was something happening, did not happen. But I probably will be going back to that well as many times as possible. I can't seem to quit him.
Me neither. And it's kind of weird because, like Matt, I don't like Pinehurst for Sahith at all.
Yeah, the only reason I do is because I think you might be able to get away with more loose tee shots than you would at the typical U.S. Open. With no rough, and I think he's creative around the greens. I think he's going to be really important at Pinehurst, firm and fast. He can get up and down from anywhere. So I think, and I don't think he's going to be a great U.S. Open player, but in terms of what U.S. Opens might fit him, it might be that one.
See, I see it the other way. I think that U.S. Opens are gonna be awesome for him because he's gonna he plays out of the rough all the time anyway. He's quite good from that super thick rough. That's just not so much patchy, but flush and thick, especially around the greens. Whereas when I think of Pinehurst, I'm like, guys don't even have to be good around the greens at Pinehurst. They can just fucking putt from wherever they want to.
True. I think of it more like Augusta, where it's going to be slopey and that firm and fast. And I think he's been good around the greens there. So I guess he's good around the greens anywhere. So, I mean, he's the type of player that can make it work anywhere just because he has the rescue short game to get him out of it. But I thought yesterday going into it, I did a live stream before the round started, and I said, I just don't trust that Sahith's driver won't let him down at least once or twice, and he's going to spray a couple. And then he couldn't make any putts. So, but it was good to see him in contention, build that scar tissue. And
yeah, Steph, when you always bet a guy who's like, I don't know, living off magic beans, which Sahith was a little bit. That is it terrifying on Sunday when you see him, but when he makes the 55-foot putt, are you like, hey, he's got this. This is fine.
Yeah, you're like, there's a little bit of confidence here, but you kind of know that the doom is coming. Like it's just this impending doom where it's probably not going to go my way. But yeah, it was nice to see him. I didn't know anything. I guess I was living under a rock. I wasn't aware about the rib situation, or then they were talking about his allergies quite a bit. So I'll blame some of it to that.
Well, Matt, you got to tell us a little bit about the course changes at Colonial. Only because the last time that you were on the show and we talked everything through, we all ended up betting Bhatia and we all got semi-rich betting Bhatia. So what can we do this week that might lead us to the right? I mean, we're not betting Scotty, right? Is that the first thing that we're not doing this week?
Absolutely not.
Steph?
No. Is there a chance he withdraws? Like, do we think that that's going to happen, or?
I would say there's probably like a 10% chance. He just is like too much.
He came out and said, I'm not withdrawing. So I don't think he would do that, then just withdraw the next day.
Yeah, it doesn't feel on brand for him. So we'll take it as it is.
So new green complexes at Colonial. You mentioned to me earlier that they got rid of some trees, some new tee boxes, but I don't think it's going to play like markedly different.
No. I think it's going to play relatively the same. Spieth comments that he made to Golf Week a couple months ago when he realized they were changing the course, where basically it kept the same colonial feel. It's classic courses. You never want to mess with them. So the field remains pretty much exactly the same. Took a couple trees out, and he said a couple of the holes that kind of were outdated, they just fixed a little bit, the green complexes. And then just a notable thing that I heard from a person who plays there frequently and lives right by the course said it's incredibly firm right now. Rock hard greens and windy. So that's going to make a really tough combination this week. I think it's going to be a single digit winner.
Single digit winner. Oh, I would like to see a single digit winner. We've seen that a few times, and the wind is picking up. Now that the winds look like they're going to be pretty steadily right around mid-teens to gusts over 20 miles per hour, Steph, does that change who you want to take, or is it just like, hey, hit some fairways, hit some irons, make some putts, let's go?
Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty off brand from a lot of people, so I don't pay as much attention to weather as maybe I should, but that's all right.
Well, as someone who pays a lot of attention to it and consistently picks losers, maybe it's just best not to pay attention. Do you think, Matt, that sometimes we just overthink this stuff way too much?
Oh, absolutely. But, they say overanalysis leads to paralysis, right? So I think that can be the case. But also, what else are we going to do? It's golf. We got to look at something.
I suppose that's true. All right, let's get into the picks. I'm going to start off with my gold pick for the Charles Schwab Challenge, and I'm going to go down the board just a little bit. This is available at Bet365 right now. I'm looking at it, and it is plus 425. Very rarely do I give out a plus 425 as a gold pick, but I really like Brian Harman this week to finish inside the top 10. I have also bet on Brian Harman to win. We saw a spike in his irons last week, and he kind of fits the prototype of the player that I'm looking at this week. We've seen a lot of veterans come through and win out of, as Matt mentioned, a very classical style designed course where you have to pick your spots, and guys who want to go for the gusto and fire at every pin is fine if you're Scotty Scheffler. If you're not Scotty Scheffler, you're going to have to ease back a little bit, hit it to 25 feet, make those putts, know where to miss. And you're going to have to run a hot putter because it's nearly impossible to win at this course if you're not amongst like the top 25% in strokes gained putting for the week. It just so very rarely happens. And the entire field is in the mix this time. So it's one of the few courses where shorter hitters can actually compete. Still easier to hit the ball as long as possible and straight, but very few guys actually do that aren't named Scotty Scheffler. Maybe I should just bet Scheffler at a slightly lower price to win. We'll see. But top 10 for Brian Harman. Steph, your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually like it quite a bit. That was up in the air. I had a feeling that one might get taken after listening to you, that you did like Harman this week. I'm not typically someone that likes to bet Harman. I think mainly just he irritates me off the course and on the course. Like, he's just not someone that I love to death, but I think he's a really good course fit. Like you said, plays well in these short courses, and he can really pop off with the putter. So I think at any point, if he gets hot, the top 10 is definitely within reach for this guy.
Yeah, so I've bet Harman twice this year, Matt. The players that could have won, I suppose, but did not win. And then I bet him the next week the Valspar, and I was like, I'm fucking done with this guy. Fortunately, I'm going to play Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs on Thursday and Friday, so I will not be watching a ton of the golf. Usually the best time to bet on Brian Harman.
Yeah, that's true. I was on him in the players also. I think it's the only time I've ever bet him. And yeah, something about him, and I agree with Steph. Like, it's really tough for me to get behind him for some reason. I guess I don't like my men built like Bilbo Baggins, but other than that, he's playing well. He makes perfect sense for the course. Some good finishes, a couple top 10s in his career. So I completely get it. I've gone in a couple different directions, but I see where you're coming from.
Well, I just saw the tweet attached to your article this week that said, you have to recover from the pain of losing with Bryson. I completely understand that. And then I saw Tony Finau was the cover guy. Like, good luck with that one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true.
So is Finau a part of your gold picks?
He is. And he T5 Tony. I want to go T5 here, plus 650. Just seeing what he did ball striking last week. I mean, he gained almost 10 strokes on approach. The other time he did that this year was at Torrey Pines when he finished 6th. And he has a great history at this course. He finished runner-up to Kevin Na. Kevin Na actually beat his ass by 4 when they were in the final group together here and back in 2019. And then he's a T4 also a couple years later. So he loves the course. He's 3rd in strokes gained total in the state of Texas. So he loves playing in Texas, likes the wind. He's actually in the last 24 rounds, he's first in strokes gained total in the wind, and he's first in strokes gained total in courses with firm greens. So I think wind, tough. His putter is really, really scary. Like he might miss a 1-foot putt. Like I think he missed a 7-inch putt last week. But if he has to get to 8 or 9 under, maybe he doesn't need to make as many putts as we might think.
Yeah. I think this year could resemble the year that Burns won, which was kind of the case where very strong tee to green because of the wind staff ended up becoming the overwhelming sort of thing versus the, hey, hit all your shots from 110 yards to 8 feet and make every single one of those putts. We've seen that year play itself out, although it's been a lot harder the past 4 or 5 years, basically since the COVID return when Berger won, that it's played a little bit differently, but it could revert back to that tougher challenge that we've seen. Could you, in good conscience, back Tony Finau this week, knowing he's going to miss every putt?
I see. So he was initially my goal, but I wasn't as brave as Matt. I had it at the top 20, which I'll change it up for when my pick.
You don't need to change it. If everyone wants to be on
so
Finau,
I did have the top
Finau.
20, and I think part of it is his results are just very up and down. I can't get there with him at the outright number. But his irons, I feel good about his iron play. But again, that putting himself out of a tournament or missing a shitload of fairways, like that's where I start to get nervous here. Big family guy. We love Tony, but for that reason, I think I'm out on the outright.
But the top 20 is going to work for you?
Sure.
Yeah.
At a plus 150, yeah.
Yeah, plus 150. I mean, that's
not asking
20.
for much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad Sahith made that putt on the 72nd hole to cash his top 20 because I was not going to be a very happy person if that wasn't the case. But yeah, okay. So top 20, Tony Finau. Top 5, Tony Finau. Should I look for like Tony Finau to miss the cut then? Because if everyone's going to be on Tony Finau, we know how this goes. I'm intentionally leaving Tom Hoagie off of my gold, silver, and bronze picks, just not to put more curse onto him because I have a feeling that, I mean, I made a pretty substantial wager, Matt, on Hoagie this week. I've been saving all my Hoagie money for the last month for this particular spot. And people have already been yelling at me because he has a bad course history. Do you care about course history, even at a course that does have a lot of repeat stuff like this?
Sometimes I do, but I think when you're in great form, you can overcome it. But I was going to mention to you, you've been talking about it for so long. I listened to all your shows. I'm starting to get nervous for you because this is just one of those things that ends up absolutely imploding.
Oh, it's fine. Listen, if he comes second or comes dead last, a loss is a loss.
That's right. Yeah. And I get it. I mean, iron guy, I think irons are the most important factor this week and every week at Colonial, right? Kind of a plotter's course, and he fits that mold. Shorter course, he doesn't have to keep up with these guys off the tee. So yeah, I think it makes plenty of sense on paper.
Steph, we'll go to the gold picks the silver picks for you. You got Finau for the gold. Who you got for the silver?
So I'll switch it up to make sure, because I am certain that both of you will probably hate this, and that's all right. And at least it won't get copied. Lee Hodges, I couldn't find a top 30 number, so I'll take his top 20 number at plus 330. He gained a shitload of strokes, 7 strokes on approach, 2.5 putting. He's playing really solid. I've kind of grown to like him and watch him play golf. He's also on my season long, so part of that is I'm paying a lot of attention to these guys. I don't think a top 30 is asking for a lot from the form that we're getting out of him. Last 2 years, finish was 29th and 35th. Top 30 is pretty nice. I think top 20, he can do it. And his win at the 3M was on bent grass. So I think there's enough to like with Lee Hodges there.
I can acquire you a plus 190 on a top 30 if you want that.
I will take it.
There we go. So plus 133 for a top 20, but plus 190 for the top 20 plus top 30 plus 190 for Lee Hodges. I think it was you who put Hodges on my radar earlier today, and the fact that he's like not 1,000 years old.
I don't know why, but in my head, like I feel like he's preparing to go on the senior tour, but he's very young. Like he's just turning 29 in a couple weeks. So he kind of plays like he's a little bit older. I don't know. He's been playing well though. And I think the game is in really good form. He had a really good week last week. I think that's enough for me where he doesn't have to play as well as he played last week to get that top 30.
Yeah, he's right in the range of like Mark Hubbard, who I like this week, Matt. Do you have any takes on Lee Hodges, or is it the first you've thought about him?
A couple takes I have is I did notice he was like top 10 in approach last week, which obviously is pretty good at considering it's a PGA Championship. And the guy was getting pretty revved up when I think he made an eagle in the back 9, and he was like fist pumping hard. So I like that.
I mean, I can get on board with Lee Hodges. I'm just going to write him down. Play Lee Hodges on DraftKings. Blame Smalls when he misses cut. Easy game.
Yeah, there you go. It's easy.
For my silver pick, Matt, I think that you bet on this guy as well. I bet him outright. I think it's a great course for him, although every time I think that he does horrible. I got Bez top 20 plus 220.
Mine was the top 10 plus 500. So
Oh, okay. So, well, I'll check you down for. I figured Bez would probably be somewhere around. What was his top 5 or top 10 odds?
5-1.
5-1. All right, Bez. Like, could you rig up a better course for Christian Bezuidenhout and then watch him falter completely?
No, I mean, I had it circled for him for a while, and you say like he hasn't really flamed out at all this year, right? He hasn't contended, but he's been so consistent, so steady over the course of the year. And this is his jam. He doesn't have to get to 20 under, which I don't think he's capable of doing. Good putter on bent, good short game, good wind player. I think it's kind of the perfect test for him. And last week, kind of one of the under the radar stories about Xander winning the PGA Championship was he gained 10 miles per hour ball speed over the past year, and he's been revving up to kind of this new gear, and that's what's taken to the next level. And Seabez is in the process of doing the same thing. His ball speed was at 160 to start the year, which is pretty low. He's got it up to 170. And I think that's the next step for these guys is gaining speed, and everyone's kind of on that. And it's no surprise that he gained 10 miles per hour ball speed, and now all of a sudden he's playing really, really well, playing much better. He's 10th in strokes gained total in Texas. So I think it's a real good spot for him.
I fall into this as well, and I can never figure out if it's smart or if it's not. So like we have the filters on Fantasy National, just go straight down, click on Texas, see what you want to see, click on the wind. The Texas one I get. I actually like the state by state and the region by region a little bit better. Like sometimes I'll even get cheeky and be like, oh, Florida and South Carolina and Georgia, and lump all those Southeast courses all into one, just to broaden my horizons a little bit with the sample sizes. The wind thing is always tough for me because I think it's important, Steph. At the same time, each course playing in the wind is not going to be the same, right?
Right. And I think that's why, and maybe that's part of, you guys have been doing this much longer than I have. So maybe it's a little bit of like immaturity on my part, but I don't take weather too much into account. Maybe first round leader, like kind of course dependent, but I really don't take them into account maybe as much as I should. And maybe that's why I haven't found as much success as I would want to sometimes.
I think it makes more sense, honestly, Matt, like trying to make DraftKings lineups or even with first round leader, like Steph said, rather than like, if you can find the right wave and you're committed to that, yeah, maybe you will give yourself, an extra 1% over the course of the year, 2% in terms of your ROI, which would be worth it. I'm not going to besmirch 1 or 2%. I mean, people would. I will not, as someone who needs any little edge they can get. But I do find sometimes with the wind stats is that it can be really course dependent because the wind here being protected by trees at not a bomber track is not exactly the same as playing at Pebble Beach.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. The one counterpoint I would make would be whether it's at Mexico or Pebble Beach or whatever, and it's a 220-yard shot or 140-yard shot, these guys still have to factor in their heads and in their club selection, what will the wind do to this shot? And if the players are consistently making the right choice and determining, what the wind will do to their shot, and they're right about it, and they're hitting their approach shots to 20, 30 feet, then I think that just shows that they're able to navigate the wind and understand how it will affect their ball flight and whatever else more so than others.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with that. I just think sometimes like I'm probably the most guilty of this of anyone, of throwing out these like, oh, this stat fits what a guy I want to bet. So it's very important this week.
Exactly. That's what I pretty much do. I pick who I like, and then I find the reasons of why I like them afterwards. I think we all do that, but I definitely am incredibly guilty of it.
Oh, I do it all the time. It's like I have these 3 guys. I'll fabricate cases for them, and then like I'll run the model to see if it likes anyone else, and I'll be like, well, I don't like that guy. Fuck him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everyone always complains to me and says, hey, so and so is 4th, 5th, and 6th year model. Why didn't you bet them? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to.
Yeah, it's like it's no different than Siwoo this week. I'm just looking at my numbers right now. Siwoo number 2 spit out. It's like he's not going to make enough putts to win.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it's like -7, maybe he will win.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me with him.
Matt, you are up for bronze picks. What do you got?
All right, this is one I don't think I've seen too much of. So I think it might be a unique one. I got Brendan Todd top 20, plus 375. Kind of similar to your case on Harman, Pat. Plotter's course, shorter hitter, and this is not a place where he will get completely lapped by the field because he doesn't hit it very far. He's been really hit or miss this season, but his one top 5 was in Texas last month. I think it was the week Akshay won, and he's good in the wind, right? He does have a win in Texas a long time ago, 2014, but he's won in the state.
Beat Mike Weir.
Yep.
I remember that vividly. I thought it was like, oh, here comes Mike Weir, 42-year-old Mike Weir. Now Todd Father's got him.
Yeah, and this is you talk about the older players, right? He's like 39 years old, so there's a course thing he can contend that. I see this going 2 ways this week, right? If Scotty's there, then I think you do need a guy to beat him. If you're talking outright market, like a Finau, right? We know he has his problems, but on his best day, he can beat Scotty, right? He outdueled Rahm in Mexico, and when Rahm was 3 or 4 to 1, like so. There's one path where you need a guy who can beat Scotty, but the other path is the field isn't that deep, and if Scotty isn't around for whatever reason, then Todd is a guy who I think can win if he gets in the mix.
So what was the market again?
It was top 20 plus 375.
We're throwing out big numbers here. People were giving out like minus 110s last week, and now we're going 5 to 1, 2.5 to 1, plus 150, plus 190. Like, this is a juicy week if we end up doing pretty well here. I do think there is another path, though. What you just mentioned. I think I laid it out on the show with Jeff a little bit earlier, is that, yeah, you can have Finau who can go toe-to-toe, tee to green with Scheffler and maybe come out on top. We know that he has that upside. Morikawa is the same way. Home is the same way when you see the guys at the top. Or you have your Todds or your Bez or whoever, or Harman, that just pull the Kevin Na and gain 14 strokes putting.
Let's hope that happens. That'd be great.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. Steph, bronze pick.
Bronze pick. He's a little bit popular. I feel like I will have FOMO not having an outright on him. I'm too much of a wimp to do that. So Harris English top 20 plus 160. Got a pulse out of his approach game last week. Big fan of that. Another guy, putter can get very hot. He can kind of rely on his driving and short game too. Obviously, there's a lot of volatility with his irons, but he has solid course history. T20 last weekend. I find myself betting Harris English a lot. So this will be another one of those weeks.
Yeah, I bet English too. I was shocked. Like, he's one of the few like big movers, I think, in the market already, from what I've seen. So let's see here. Harris English, yeah, that's top finishes. I don't want to see that. I want to see for the tournament. I want to see what your outright number is. Yeah, man, he's down to 30 to 1 now on Bet365.
So he's missing the cut, basically.
Yeah, one of those big movers. In theory, it makes a lot of sense. Funny Harry English story. I was at the Travelers the year he won, and me and a group of friends were following him around on like Thursday, and because we bet him, and there was literally nobody there following his group, and we were cheering for him so loud, and like Harris every time he made a putt, we were like all over it, and he was like the biggest jerk to us ever. Like, would not even look our way, acknowledge us. He's like just so pissed off the entire time for whatever reason. Ended up beating Kramer Hookock in an 8-hole playoff, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the playoff that would never end. Steph, have you been to any event?
I have not. I've been to Waste Management a million times, only because I went to school right by there. And then outside of that, no, I haven't been to any other ones.
Yeah, the only ones I've been to. I've been to Phoenix twice, which is a party. I did my bachelor party in Phoenix during Waste Management, but I also went to the 3M Open one year. And it's funny you mentioned just like following around random dudes, because we followed around this group that had Satoshi Kodaira, Martin Trainer, and someone else. And it was right after Kodaira had won me a bunch of money, which was fantastic news at the Heritage when he ended up winning. But he also had this cohort of like 5 Japanese press following him around the entire time. And there was just like no one else, not a single fan following this guy around. And I was able to bum cigs off the Japanese cohort of photographers that were following him around. And he like chain smoked the entire time, which I just thoroughly enjoyed.
Amazing.
That's hilarious, because the second you mentioned him, I was going to say the exact same thing. Because I go to the Travelers every year, and one of the years I bet on him, we were following him around. I think he was like first round leader or something. And I was going to say the exact same thing. He had like 5 or 6 Japanese folks with him, and they're all just ripping butts the entire time. It was great.
Amazing.
Steph, at Phoenix, the one thing that I noticed that never really, I mean, it's starting to get covered a little bit more. I don't know if it was the same when you were going, but the amount of fist fights in the gallery are outrageous.
Oh, it's out of control. It's also getting, I swear I'd have to look into it. I haven't looked into too much, but it's very crowded now. Like I remember going back when I was still in college and I feel like I still had a good view of what was going on. And then we went, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, a year ago. And I feel like I could barely see anything by the end of the weekend. I'm also short, so that does not help for me. But yeah, very crowded.
And you could just see people going off to do God knows what with
Yeah.
like in between the fifth fairway and a bit of the waist area. It's like, yeah, I wonder what's going on behind those trees. I don't know if they like legalized marijuana or not. In Arizona at the time that we were there, it was not. So there was like designated places on the course that were like kind of close to tee boxes where we'd have to go to smoke joints. And it was like, oh, the security guards were not impressed by our entire shit show, but they had a lot going on. But just the amount, like there was 3 guys who got into like 3 separate fist fights watching Ricky Fowler tee off on like 14. It just cracked me up.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Ricky Fowler like frat fans that do follow Ricky around with their full heart.
My last one, my bronze pick. I'm going back to a guy I went with last week, and he did not come through for me. Poor Keegan Bradley. He just couldn't find a putter. But the driving, and I mean, the driving was spectacular, and the approach was very good as well. And with his putting, can he make enough putts to win this tournament? I mean, probably not. I did end up betting him at 70-1, but we've seen enough upside with his flat stick that if he gets it going, he can keep it going. And he can be a very good tee to green player, obviously, plays better at harder courses. So if this does firm up, I think that'll be beneficial to him. And you already mentioned Travelers. Not that it has any sort of comp to it, Matt, but you mentioned it, and that's good enough for me to make the link with Keegan Bradley. I'm grasping at straws here, outside of just pure ball striking and the fact that he's this huge number when he really doesn't need to be. But for these picks, Keegan Bradley top 20 plus 240. Like there are guys in front of him who I don't want to say they're legitimately bad players, but Keegan is a good player. He's not a great player by any means, but these are the sort of tournaments he shows up to, Matt.
Yeah, I agree with that. And looking for a link that were the Travelers when we thought of, but here's another link that might actually make sense. He dueled with Sam Burns at the Valspar, another kind of similar, shorter course, tough course, windy. Sam Burns won here. So I know Keegan hasn't played here all that often, but that might make sense in terms of course fit. And you mentioned the putter for him. Like, yeah, he's bad putting a lot of the time, but he is the type, he's a spike putter. It's not like when he gains, it's 1. It's either he'll lose 3, gain 7. And in terms of outright betting, that's kind of all you want. I know this is a top 20, but we really just want to cash those outright tickets.
Yeah, I'm looking to cash my outright ticket at 70-1. I mean, listen, I'll cash the 240 along with it. That would be nice for the top 20. But I completely see what you're saying with Valspar. So we've had that. Sam Burns has been a winner. Steph Kokrak won here. Obviously, he gagged it to Paul Casey coming down the stretch. Can't remember if Paul Casey won this one or not. I think he won Shell Houston in 2010.
Yep. Not
here. But Adam Schenk, lost to Taylor Moore a year ago, came in second at the Valspar, lost in a playoff to Emiliano Grillo at this course last year as well. So I think there's enough of a link and similar field strength. Like we have the 5 guys at the top who are really good, and we have that this week as well. And that's usually what we end up seeing at the Valspar. They're different names that, instead of having Spieth is the same because Spieth plays both these, but instead of Xander, we got Scotty at the top. Sam Burns generally plays in them both. He's not playing this week because I think he's playing in Canada next week because he's an RBC guy, or he's just taking extra time off because of the baby, whatever it might be. But I think we should talk outrights then, if we're going to get to this part. I kind of ran through everyone this morning on the show that I did with Feinberg. So I'm curious to know who you guys are on. Steph, who have you bet outright so far?
I am also on the Hoagie train with you there. I'm also on Homa. I can imagine he's going to get popular as he does every week. And I think that deteriorates me from betting on him a lot, but that he's just a popular name. I do think he's one of the guys that if it comes down to, a Scotty competition, I think he can compete with him. So I am on Homa. His approach the last couple events starting to look very nice, less of an emphasis on that off the tee, which I think benefits him well here. Playing to like with his course history too. So I think he's always he has this capability with the putter that at any point can again get hot. I know I've repeated myself that many times, but it's a theme with what I was looking at this week. But I could see him go head to head with Scotty, and I think he's someone that could pull off a win.
How about you, Matt? Where are we going outright?
So I got the Finau at 30. I think there's some 33s out there. I'm back down to 30 now. And then I got Seabez at 50 like you. I got Sung Jae. He's at 40 everywhere now. And it's tough with him, but he seems like a player who could get hot at this course. He won at TPC Summerlin, just like Kevin Na did. Similar type of skill set, and he's starting to show some life. He missed a cut on the number at the PGA Championship, but history shows that it really doesn't matter for this event. I think the last 4 winners, the ones that have been here after the PGA, the best finish was Burns, who finished 20th, but the other 3 didn't finish better than 50th. 2 missed the cut. And so I don't think that matters. 1 in career recently. And then he has 2 top 12 finishes in his last 2 starts in the PGA Tour. He has the T12 at Heritage and then the T4 at Quail Hollow, which I thought was really encouraging. And I think he's playing well, and this is the type of course he can win at. And then the Brendan Todd, I got at 110 to 1.
Steph, was there anyone above 100 to 1 that you ended up going with? I took Hubbard at 100.
Not yet. I'm laughing just because it's just a horrible bet. But Justin Lauer had my attention. But outside of that, I haven't finalized my outrights quite yet. I'll probably finalize that before my show tomorrow. Lower than that, Straka kind of peeped up for me a couple times while I was doing my research. So he might be someone that creeps his way onto my card. It's going to be a very non-traditional card for me, like very off-brand. A lot of guys that you don't see me betting typically week to week.
A guy that I will throw out it's funny because I kind of laid out the case for the guys that I want, and this guy's name has not come up the entire time. Although I think on paper, Matt, isn't this a good Akshay course?
It is. And someone asked me that today. And I definitely think it is. My issue is I just think it's too much too soon. And this is what I said about people getting on him, the week after at Quail. I just think, he's still 22 years old. He just broke through for a big win. And do we expect him to win again 3 weeks later? It just feels like a big ask for me.
I would tend to agree. And he's putting really well. I do worry about in conditions like this. Do you think that he'll end up being a guy who needs to be like minus 20, like that sort of score to end up winning tournaments? Because he doesn't really seem like the -7 type guy.
No, he doesn't. Like I think he's probably a birdie fest guy more, and right now he is. But I do think he's still so young, and he still has the ability, and I believe in his potential to really become something great. But I just think it's so early in his career that I wouldn't expect him to pull something like that off now.
All right, I want to talk about a betting broadcast for a second. Steph, did you end up seeing any of the ESPN bet one?
I did not. I felt like I knew I was not going to be a fan of it, and then was hoping to maybe hear feedback from other people, but I did not tune in.
Matt, did you watch any of it?
I didn't. I just saw some like funny tweets about it. So I followed it that way.
So I ended up getting a copy of it and watched a lot of it this afternoon just to get a sense of it. Because I feel like I'm very highly invested in trying to make something like this work, although no one is asking me to try to do this. But I have ideas. I thought I want to brainstorm with you guys for a second. What they did predominantly was like follow around a group and bet like, are they going to hit the fairway? Are they going to hit, like if they're in the bunker, are they going to make bogey or worse, whatever it might be. But here's the sneaky thing. And I've talked to a lot of executives. I've talked to a lot of people, even at gambling companies. And it does seem like a lot of the old heads, the executives, whatever it might be, even the PGA Tour the PGA Tour broadcasting or at ESPN, the people that I've talked to, they're all really obsessed with micro betting. And I understand why. You can just, the more micro bets that you make, the more vig that your sports book is going to make. It makes a ton of sense in terms of making money. But Matt, you know a lot of people who bet. Steph, you know a lot of people who bet. Do you really think there's that many people micro betting, like hole by hole, shot by shot? I just don't think that people bet that way.
Every time I've like tried to look at things like that, I'm always like, who the fuck is betting? Can so-and-so make the fairway at -140? Nobody is betting this. Like what? There should be dedicated feeds to like, obviously pre-tournament odds and how they're moving throughout. A guy makes a birdie or a bogey and live odds. Like this guy's entering a par 5, right? His odds might go skyrocket after he makes a birdie here. Like people actually know about betting. I guess that is what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steph. Like, do you see it, Steph?
I feel like it takes away a lot from like the broadcast itself too. Like when you're going to try and bet these things, you're kind of doing them on a whim at that point because you're not sitting down and trying to do all this research. It's like you're trying to pay attention, watch the tournament. So that micro betting is an interesting approach for golf, at least.
It makes more sense than a lot of sports only because there's time to do it. So you hit your shot into the fairway. All of a sudden it's like, hey, are they going to make birdie on this hole? Are they going to make par on this hole? And you have actually time to contemplate it. It's not like betting pass or run in football, like on play by play. And even some of the delays end up doing that. So I just don't think it's going to be a popular market. And if you tailor a broadcast around, hey, I'm going to bet Tiger to hit the fairway here, it's like, that's great. I give a fuck about your bets. I care about my bets. So that they've lost that element of it as well. And if you talk to anyone who bets on golf, and it just first thing that pops to mind, Steph, you first. What's the first thing that people who bet on golf complain the most about coverage?
I don't even know. I feel like people complain so much about everything. What
do you hate about it, Ben?
I don't even know how to answer that.
Matt?
So much.
They want to see more golf shots. They're guys
more golf shots, right?
Yeah.
So that's the actual gambling feed, isn't it? It's not let's follow around 3 guys and see 3 shots every 10 minutes. It's let's show more stuff. That's the gambling broadcast doesn't need to be discernibly different than the regular broadcast. Just show fucking more stuff.
It's so horrible. It's so bad.
Like that's it. That's
true.
all. Like you don't need people on there to talk. Like have the odds up next to the leaderboard. That's great. The people doing the broadcast can reference what they are, but it's not like, oh my God, on Thursday, Xander short-sided himself. Well, he went from 16-1 to 18-1. You got to jump on that now. Like no one fucking bets that way.
No. I think the way to do it too is like, there's such an entertainment piece that's missing from the broadcast. Like no one's fucking listening to what it's horrible. Like it's just it's really, really bad most of the time. So I think the way that you do it is add an entertainment factor, show more shots, and that's how you approach it.
So I was trying to come up with a pitch, Matt, of how they can do this, but not add anything to the budget, or at least minimally add to the budget. Because that's all this really comes down to. If you're going to squeeze this in and make this a thing, and they want to make it a thing, they just have no idea how to actually draw people into this. How can you do it for as little cost as possible? I've talked about it, just an audio only feed to show more shots. But let's throw out the idea of we need to see every single person take a shot, because that doesn't seem achievable at this point, at least where we're standing right now in terms of infrastructure. What can we do with existing infrastructure to make this better and have a gambling feed about it? Now, if they want to have micro bets, and that seems to be a big priority for them, then give them a featured hole. Whatever the best hole is, let's make that one of the things that we like. The commentary is at hole 13, and it's a par 3, and we can bet whatever, or it's a drivable par 4 or a par 5 or something. So then you're not just following around the same group the entire time. You're seeing new players come in and out, and then you can use your experience from that hole to actually give pretty good gambling advice. Oh, he short-sided himself here. I've just seen 8 people come through and not get this within 10 feet. Kind of thing. Like I think that would be step 1 to making it a little bit more entertaining if you wanted to have the micro bet type thing. And I think the par 3s easily work out that way. Then put cameras on 8 and 9 and 17 and 18. Make it just 9 and 18. So then you can like compile together a little bit of a cut sweat, but then you get to see these guys come through again. And then you can take the existing 3 featured group feeds and just pile them into one. Steph, I watched Thursday and Friday on the main feed of the PGA Championship, and it was just a best of the 2 featured groups. That's it.
Yeah, it was awful. And there was guys too, like doing very well. Like you would have no idea how Cam Smith was playing those first couple rounds because you didn't even see him the entire time. So that part is very frustrating, especially, as people that gamble on golf all the time.
Yeah. And like, Matt, do you care if the broadcast is talking about their bets?
No. That's how I feel. Like everyone, like it's almost like on Twitter when you like post your bets and someone replies with their bets, like cool, I don't care what your bets are.
Cool.
These are my bets. But I think your idea is genius, and because it just reminded me again back to the Travelers reference. Me and my friends would just sit at the par 3. There's 3 of us. Each of us take one of the guys in the threesome, $100 each. Whoever gets closest wins, and we do that for every group coming in. We each pick a guy. So I think like what you said is basically exactly the same as that. That's what gamblers would want, because I've done it subconsciously. Didn't even think about it when the way you just said it.
Yeah, and it's just another added element. It's a way to see not only more shots but more players. And I don't need after they all tee off, you don't need to watch them walk to the green and line it up. We can start showing some other stuff in between. It's okay. We don't need the guy on the course. Like I like Michael Collins and everything, and he's the actual entertainment part of the broadcast that went through. I actually quite liked him, but I don't need him to fill for 4 minutes in between shots every single time. I'd rather just watch other shots.
It's a nice way to bring people in that also don't bet on golf all the time, because then they're kind of just focusing on 1 hole, 2 holes. And that's kind of getting their fix on gambling for the tournament.
And it's easy too, like even to break it down like Matt did, like you can come in with the odds of hey, this guy will make birdie. And like if you had a custom hole for the tournament, let's say if it was ESPN Plus, then ESPN Bet can put up their own, like, you know, for the regular par threes, you have your odds, but for the featured hole par three, like there could be just fucking 500 odds if you really wanted to have them that could populate in real time. But you could even do something as simple as you said, just like make everyone like close to even money, and pari-mutually you can bet three-way on it between two people, you know.
Oh, it'd be awesome. And I don't know if you can tell by the story I told, but I have a severe gambling addiction. So
Hey, listen, if people are that's the thing. If people are tuning into the ESPN betting feed, it's all of that. It's not, hey, I'm regular guy, let me check out this gambling feed.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it'd be fun. I mean, you just pick the guys close to the hole, and then you wait for the shot like to come up like 18, 6 inches, and the other guy beat him by an inch rush. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and like the graphics work themselves out easily. And while you're still showing the other shots and bringing in the other feeds, while stuff isn't going on, but you always make it a priority to show what's going on at that hole. You can even have a little timer like, hey, the next group is going to be on the tee in 6 minutes. Here are the three guys. Here are their odds. We're off to the races.
So dangerous, though. That's what makes it great.
Well, it is super dangerous, but I mean that, but that's exactly what they want, isn't it?
Yeah.
There we are. All right. This is fun. Thanks for joining us.
We always have good shows. The first 2 times, so I think. And you know what? Like you mentioned, last time we got a winner, so let's pray this is good. This is a good luck omen.
Yeah, Steph, is there one person that the three of us are on? Can that person win?
Who are we all on here?
I think you need to bet Bez to be along with us.
I do have to bet Bez, and he was popping up. I have him highlighted. I think I will jump in on the Bez train with you guys.
There we go.
There we are. Steph, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter at Steffi Smalls with 3 L's, the Steffi Smalls Show on YouTube, and I appreciate you for having me on. This was a blast.
No problem. We'll have you back again. Matt, tell everyone where they can find you.
Matt Vincenzi PGA on Twitter, and look out for that Benny on interview tomorrow. They'll be coming out. Hopefully get him to open up a little bit and have a good conversation.
Why do you have PGA after your name and not LIV?
Again, I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there that I'd be glad to talk about, but it probably might take us another full podcast. But yeah.
Hey, if you don't immediately hate Liv, you love Liv. That's how it works.
Well, I was getting frustrated this weekend because everyone just called me a Liv buck. I was rooting for Bryson. It's like, I've loved Bryson forever. He was my first ever outright hit at the 2017 Northern Trust. I was there. And it's like, I just love him as a player. And I think everyone is now realizing why he's so awesome. And it's nothing to do with Liv. They're like bootlicker Liv. I just like, can I just root for Bryson at the PGA? Not to mention I had a 50-1 bet on him. Like, is that okay?
No.
No, I root against him. Yeah. Blood money.
I don't even know if the money is real. They're probably paying you to bet on him and show it off. I mean, that's what I heard.
Yeah. Something like that.
All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME. I'll have my final bets and breakdown coming out on Wednesday evening. I'll be back on Wednesday morning with Tambo to break down the final bets, the weather, the DraftKings picks, and we're doing our underdog draft. And you can too. Even like Michigan now, you can be doing some drafts. Aren't you in Michigan, Steph?
I am very excited. This will be the first week. I didn't do it last week, but I did re-download, found some money still in my account, which was very lovely. So I will use it this weekend.
So you good people in Michigan, use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy, get a deposit bonus of up to $250. And I've been in talks to bring something, like one of the main reasons that I joined on with Underdog was I have ideas too, you know. And DraftKings didn't like all my ideas, but I had a really good idea to create a props pick'em pool over the course of a tournament where not only do you have to play your entries, but you know, it sucks when you get 4 out of 5 right or 3 out of 5 right. And that's it. You just lose. Well, what if we all kind of got together and they put up some money for pick 'em for each of the 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got to make 5 picks. You got to wager at least $5, but then there's an overall leaderboard for it. I like that better than drafts. Matt, would you actually play in that instead of like doing the draft? I know some people hate the drafts for one round, but if you were forced to make 5 prop picks on Underdog for golf each round of the tournament, but if you went like, I don't know, 17 for 20 over the course of the first rounds, there was like a huge bonus prize for everyone who used code Mayo.
I think it'd be a really good idea. I like Underdog. I kind of like, it gives you something round by round. Like in DraftKings, right? Your lineup might flame out on the first day, whereas you can just go back at it again the next day. I will say this though, as a former winner of the PME, I really miss that content. You can edit this out if it's not allowed to be
No,
said.
no,
but
I listen. I get mad at people when they bring it up, but I miss it too.
I missed it. It was such a great. It was just the best.
Someday.
But Underdog's great too.
Yeah,
Sign up,
use
code Mayo.
Underdog, code Mayo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just I think this is like because I did this a while ago with NFL props. Like I had to hand do everything and like add everything up every single week. I think they would try to take care of this. It's all just kind of a test balloon for both NFL season and PGA next season. That if we could figure out a way to make like a season long, it's sort of like the one and done, but it's with daily props. That if like you're not really feeling it on Thursday, but you're feeling it on Friday, it gives you a chance to get in at any time over the weekend to compete for this much larger pool. And I think that, I mean, Steph, you just talked about your season-long fantasy golf team. Like there is some fun that I think that people have in tracking something that lasts a year.
Oh, 100%. Like it's been an absolute, and that's ultimately what got me into golf is I didn't know golf at all. Really, I watched it a little bit here and there. I wasn't betting on it yet. And then I joined this season long and it's so fun to have guys, even just to make the cut, then there's a cut bonus and then you can get the 2-man. So you kind of always have players in it when your bets are already to shit by round 2. It's like, oh, I can still, there's still chance here for Lee Hodges to finish X and then I can maybe hit the 2-man.
There we are. So hopefully this goes for the Canadian Open next week. We might try a test balloon, so I need your help. And the best way that you can do that is using code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy, and you'll get your deposit bonus of up to $250 as well. So you might as well take advantage of that. Well, that is still going on. Plus, there's NFL best ball drafts going on right now if you want to get back in those best ball streets for NFL. All right. Smash the like while you're here. FantasyNational.com/Mayo for 20% off all the tools and the most exquisite leaderboard app there is. One that's not 80 hours behind. So you might as well just get it for that. And then all the other tools and the research, that's a complete bonus. I'll be back on Wednesday. Until then, see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!